I'm just going to call myself out now because I am filming 3 videos in a row and I want to edit them all like in quite quick succession. So I'm not going to be getting any of the books out to hold up to talk about in this video, and I'm probably not going to edit the pictures in either, but you're just going to have to deal with it. Hi everyone, my name is Chloe, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for being here today. Today's video is going to be my 24 books that I want to read in 2024. Now I normally don't do these sorts of lists because I don't know why, to be honest. I feel like one thing, it's like, if we're going to keep doing it, like, are we going to get to like 40 and 40 eventually? I mean, like, am I still going to be making videos in like 16 years time? Probably not. But like, it just feels like it's getting a little bit out of control. But also, like, I don't always do well sticking to these sorts of lists. But there are a lot of books that I want to like make a point of reading this year, and I do have plans to read them, so I'm hoping that having this list this year will actually hold me accountable. So what I've decided to do, because 24 breaks down quite well into like different sections, I decided to break it into 4 sections of 6 different books, and those sections are going to be 6 new releases, like entirely new releases, not connected to other series. They will all be from authors that I've read from before, but they are not like continuations of series. We're going to have 6 sequels, which is going to be either sequels that I already own or sequels that are coming out this year that I want to make sure I prioritize. We're going to have 6 books by authors that I've read that aren't sequels, and these ones, all apart from one, are all going to be pre-owned. These are ones where I already have books where like I really liked an author, I bought another book by them, and then I just haven't read it and I want to hold myself accountable. They're the ones that I actually really want to work on this year, because they're the ones where I feel like I've got a lot. Those alongside the last group, which is subscription box books. So I get between 1 and 3 subscription boxes every month depending on what I'm skipping, and I'm not always the best at reading them, so I would like to make a point of reading some of those, and I split it again between sort of older subscription box releases and then ones that have come out in the last year as well. So basically what I'm trying to do here is that keep me accountable for reading my pre-orders and keep me accountable for reading books that I already have. And I think hopefully this is going to work, because I am actively excited about every single book on this list. So without further ado, let's just talk about the books that I want to read. So the first one, like I said, we're looking at new releases. So these are books where I've read from these authors before and they have new releases out this year, but they're not like connected to previous series. So while I'm not actually going to hold up the books for this, what I will do is get you a synopsis so that I am at least not being completely lazy. And actually this section breaks up quite well into, I've got 2 that are more fantasy based and then 4 romances, because the romance books are really what I'm excited for this year. So let's start off with the more fantasy ones, and one of the ones that I'm really excited for this year is The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo. So this is one that sort of got announced out of nowhere, because like Leigh Bardugo, obviously known for writing the Grishaverse books, and we don't have anything sort of due out in the Grishaverse at the minute. We've like recently finished a series. She is in the middle of writing the Ninth House series, and there was like all of a sudden here's this book that's coming out in like April this year, and it's like, oh okay, where did this come from? And it's described as a historical fantasy set during the Spanish Golden Age. So it's in a shabby house on a shabby street in the new capital of Madrid. Lucia Cortado uses scraps of magic to get through her days of endless toil as a scullion. But when her scheming mistress discovers a lump of a servant cowering in the kitchen is actually hiding a talent for little miracles, she demands Lucia use those gifts to better their family's social position. What begins as simple amusement for the bored nobility takes a perilous turn when Lucia garners the notice of Antonio Perez, the disgraced secretary to Spain's king. Still reeling from the defeat of his armada, the king is desperate for any advantage in the war against England's heretic queen, and Perez will stop at nothing to regain the king's favour. Determined to seize this one chance to better her fortunes, Lucia plunges into a world of seers and alchemists, holy men and hucksters, where the line between magic, science and fraud is never certain, but as her notoriety grows, so does the danger that her Jewish blood will doom her to the Inquisition's wrath. She will have to use every bit of her wit and will to survive, even if that means enlisting the help of Gulen Santangel. I'm probably pronouncing a lot of these names wrong. An embittered and mortal familiar, whose own secrets could prove deadly for them both. Like, I don't know if that, like, if I read that synopsis, I don't know if that would be something that I would necessarily, like, immediately gravitate towards, but you tell me Leigh Bardugo's writing it, and I'm like, okay, I will give that a try. So that is the first one that I would like to prioritise this year. I think that with this one, I'm putting it on this list because I pre-ordered it, and there is a chance that I will like feel a bit daunted by it and not pick it up. So by putting it on this list, I will hopefully have to pick it up. The next one, The Other Fantasy, I feel like I'm definitely going to read anyway, because like I've really loved 2 books by this author before, and I just read one this week, and now I'm like, I want more from them. And that is Evocation by S.T. Gibson. So if I give you the synopsis of this one, it says, The Devil Knows Your Name, David Aristakov. I am doing great at pronouncing names today. As a teen, David Aristakov was a psychic prodigy, operating under the shadow of his oppressive occultist father. Now, years after his father's death and rapidly approaching his 30th birthday, he is content with the high-powered life he's curated as a Boston attorney, moonlighting as a powerful medium for a secret society. But with power comes a price, and the devil has come to collect on an ancestral deal. David's days are numbered and death looms at his door. Reluctantly, he reaches out to the only person he's ever trusted, his ex-boyfriend and secret society rival Reese, for help. However, the only way to get Reese is through his wife Moira. Thrust into each other's care, emotions once buried deep resurface, and the trio race to figure out their feelings for one another before the devil steals David away for good. I'm very excited for this one. Like I said, I've read 2 S.T. Gibson ones before. I read A Dowry in Blood last year, and that was in my favourites last year. And then I read An Education, not last year, 2022. And then last year I read An Education in Malice, which was in my favourites for 2023. So I am very much looking forward to anything that they write in the future. And this one sounds incredible. So the other new releases that we have, like I said, these ones are all romances. I'm probably not going to read the full synopsis of these ones because I can probably give you like a little bit of a briefer summary. But we've got Funny Story by Emily Henry. So this one is essentially about 2 people whose exes end up dating each other, like they both get dumped for each other. So you've got Daphne, who is dating someone called Peter, and he leaves her for his childhood best friend of Petra. And then you have Miles, who was dating Petra, and he left her to go and be with Peter. And they end up as roommates, and it says roommates mainly avoid one another until one day, while drowning their sorrows, they form a tenuous friendship and a plan. If said plan also involves posting deliberately misleading photos of their summer adventures together, well, who could blame them? So basically they are like sort of posting pictures to make their exes jealous, and we all know that they're obviously gonna like fall in love throughout it. I'm very excited for it. I read all of the other Emily Henry adult romances this year and last year. Why do I keep doing that? But I read them all in 2023 and had a great time with all of them, so I'm looking forward to her next release. Then we have Here We Go Again by Alison Cochrane. I again really love everything I've read from Alison Cochrane before. She wrote The Charm Offensive and Kiss the Once for Me. This one is coming out in April, and it's childhood best friends who like fell out with each other but then are forced back together because they're driving their former teacher across the country. So yeah, they said that they ended up being rivals in high school, and then after graduation they went 10 years without speaking. They're now in their 30s, still living in their small town, and they work as teachers at their old high school. And then their former English teacher has got some sort of terminal illness, and they end up helping him fulfill his sort of last wish of doing this cross-country road trip. And we know again what's going to happen along the way of this road trip. Like I said, I love both of the Alison Cochrane books that I've read, so I'm expecting that I will really like this one as well. Then we have got The Pairing by Casey McQuiston. This one comes out in August. Casey McQuiston, obviously the writer of Red, White and Royal Blue, One Last Stop, Ike Shara Wheeler. This one has a very simple synopsis actually, so I will read this one. It says 2 bisexual exes accidentally book the same European food and wine tour and challenge each other to an international hookup competition to prove they're over each other. And they are over each other, right? I'm so excited for this. It's basically just 2 bisexuals sleeping their way around Europe to try and pretend that they don't like each other when clearly they do. This is going to be a fun time, and I've been following Casey McQuiston right in this one. Like they post a lot on Instagram about it, and everything they've posted, like all sort of like the mood boards and things for it, I'm like, this looks great. I'm so excited for this book. This is probably the release that I'm most excited for this year. And then the last one that we have is by another one of my favourite romance authors, and it is a novel love story by Ashley Poston. Basically this is about someone who is a literature professor, and it says that 1 week out of the year she abandons her dusty textbooks and makes a pilgrimage to Hudson Valley with her best friend Prue to meet their super smutty book club in person. She ends up getting lost in a thunderstorm, and she finds herself in a quaint town that feels right out of a book, because it's out of the book series that her and the book club sort of bonded over. But I believe the series was never finished, so they're sort of stuck where the series left off at, and I think she's obviously going to have to help them sort of like finish the story off. And it sounds a little bit like it's got, I was going to say Schmigadoon vibes because that's my reference for it, but obviously that is like based on Brigadoon as well. It sounds like it's got that sort of vibe to it, and I'm very excited for that because Schmigadoon is something that I do very much enjoy. It's a TV show, it's a musical TV show that I recommend you all go and watch. But those are my new releases that I'm looking forward to this year. So then we're going to move on to 6 sequels. I'm not going to give you synopsis of these ones because obviously they are sequels, but I will give you like a little bit of a rundown as to where we're at with the series so far. So with these ones, I think I've got 4 of them that are going to be new releases. So I'm like cheating a little bit with also having new releases on here, and 2 of them are ones that I actually already own. There are more on my shelves that I could have put on here for ones that I already own, but I have some like pre-orders of sequels that again I want to make sure I prioritize, although some of them like I know I'm definitely going to prioritize. I think I just wanted to shout them out in a video. So the first one is that it's Empire of the Damned by Jay Kristoff. I'm definitely going to be reading this because I host a read along for Jay Kristoff books. I am a co-host of Kristoff Along. We are going to be reading Empire of the Vampire starting in January actually. So we've got the live show for Obsidio this week. We're then going to be reading Empire of the Vampire for about 6 to 7 weeks, going up until towards the end of February, and then just before Empire of the Damned comes out we will have the live show for Empire of the Vampire. So then if you want to go straight on to Empire of the Damned you can do. If you want to take your time a little bit more of it, we'll give you another 6 weeks to read that one. But this one comes out right at the very end of February. I believe it's the 29th, which sounds like a date that shouldn't exist, but it's a leap year, so there we go. And this follows on from Empire of the Vampire, and I'm not going to give you a synopsis about this one, apart from the fact that we've got a main character sort of telling his story. He has been, it's told in a way where he has sort of been captured at some point and he is telling his story of how he got there. And we're kind of a third of the way through the story now. I think it's a trilogy, and I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm going to prioritise reading the second one. Like I said, I kind of have to, but I wanted to put it on this list anyway. We then have got Ruthless Vows, which is the concluding part of the duology that started with Divine Rivals. With this one, we got 2 rivals at a newspaper who, unbeknownst to them, are also like secretly sending letters to each other by way of a magical typewriter, and like slowly falling in love, but they don't realise it. There's also like a war going on in the background, a war of gods, but it feels very much like World War One, maybe World War Two. I was trying to figure out which one it is, but it feels World War One to me. But anyway, the romance in this is impeccable. I'm so excited for this one. I actually have it pre-ordered. It should be arriving at my house in the next few days, so hopefully I will have actually finished this one by the end of the month. Fingers crossed. I just realised I'm not sure if I said the author of Ruthless Vows, but it is Rebecca Ross. And then the next book that we're going to talk about is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by T.J. Klune. So this is a sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea that came out a few years ago now, and that book is about this guy called Linus who is like a civil servant, and he goes to go and inspect this children's home, but it's a children's home for magical children. And while he's there, he sort of falls in love with the kids and with the guy who is running the place as well, and it's sort of looking at like how society judges these people with these special powers as well, and I just really love that book. I'm not sure if it needs a sequel, which is really strange because I'm putting it on here, which is kind of why I'm putting it on here in all fairness, because I know I will pre-order it. If they do a pretty edition for one of the book boxes, I will definitely get it. And I also know that because I'm a little bit scared of them doing a sequel for this, that I might then just not read it. So if I put it on here, I have to read it. That's kind of my thinking for it. I don't know what the sequel's about. I've not read a synopsis because I don't really want to. Like, I don't want to know where we're heading. I'm unsure about it, but we'll see how it goes. We then have got The Undermining of Frank and Twyla by Megan Bannon. This is a companion book to The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy, which was one of my favourite books from last year. This one I actually just had to look up because The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy was like a sort of fantastical rom-com. It was You've Got Mail but fantastical. Like, I know this one is also based on a rom-com, but I couldn't remember which one, and I can't believe I couldn't remember because it's based on When Harry Met Sally, which is one of my favourite rom-coms. I don't know how it's actually going to fit into this. Again, I've not read a full synopsis and I don't particularly want to, but it says that it is When Harry Met Sally but with dragons, and yeah, that's all I need to know. I loved The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy so much, so very excited for this one. This is one where I just put it on here because I just wanted to talk about it. There's nothing stopping me reading this, I just wanted to talk about it. So the last 2 sequels that we have to read, these are ones that I do already own and I really need to get on with reading them. The first one being We Free the Stars by House of Vizsla. So I read We Hunt the Flame last year, year before, I can't remember. It was Meg put it on my TBR and my TBR game when I had friends pick prompts, and I did enjoy it. I gave it 4 stars. It took me a while to get into it because I don't know if I just wasn't in the right mood to read it. I was listening to the audiobook. Once I actually like sort of concentrated and figured out what was going on, I did enjoy it. I have said I think I need to reread the first one. I didn't own the second one for a while, and then someone bought it me for Christmas. So I'm like, maybe I should read it now. I did have the ebook for a while, so I didn't really have that excuse, but like not having it physically kind of stopped me a little bit. But like, there is no excuse. There are multiple copies of it in this house anyway. Like, these books behind me are not just my books. Like, 2 of the shelves you can see are Meg's, and she owns multiple copies of it. So I've had no excuse. I continue to have no excuse not to read it. So I put it on here to tell myself that I will read it, but I probably will end up rereading the first one. I can't give you a synopsis of this because, like I said, as you can clearly see, I'm not remembering that much of the first one, which is why I need to reread it. We then have got A Restless Truth by Freya Marske. So the reason I put this one on here is that this is actually a trilogy, and I own all 3 of them, and I've read 1. And the only reason I own all 3 is that they were Illumicrate editions, and they were really pretty editions, and I didn't want to miss out on them. But I believe the second one is more of a companion to the first one. I think it's the sister, one of the characters from the first one, and it was a sort of magical romance set in, I want to say, Edwardian times. I'm doing so great at explaining things in this video, but there was very much like a mystery that was set up in the first one, and I think from what I've seen is that like the second one follows the sister, and then I think the third one probably ties them both together. And I did really enjoy the first one, gave it 4 stars, and it took me so long to actually read that one that I don't now want to put off the second one and then put off the third one. So I thought if I put the second one on here, and then hopefully I'll follow on quite quickly with the third one. Accountability, that's what we're hoping for. So that completes our sequels category. The next group of books I'm going to talk about is books by authors that I've read from before, where I own other books of theirs that aren't part of sequels, which means that I'm less likely to pick them up, because I am actually quite good at keeping on top of sequels, which is another reason why I didn't have that many pre-owned sequels on that last section. But what I will do is go, oh yeah, I like that author, I'll buy their new book, and not read it if it's like not continuing a story that I already know. Like, it feels like I have less of an obligation to read it quickly, which is ridiculous. Like, I need to read the books that I own. So I thought by putting them on this list that might help. Although that being said, the first one I don't own, but Meg does, it's right there. It's Down Comes the Night by Alison Saft. Now, I don't know the synopsis of this one. I don't want to know the synopsis of this one. I read A Far Wilder Magic by Alison Saft last year, and I did really enjoy that. I just bought A Fragile Enchantment, which has just come out, and Meg has actually read my copy before I got to it, and she's really enjoyed that one. She really enjoys Down Come the Night. I think that's actually her favourite Alison Saft book she's read, and I really liked Alison Saft's writing. Like, it was a 4-star, Far Wilder Magic. There were a couple of things with the plotting that I had issues with, but overall I really like the writing, I really like the characters. So I'm hoping that I will also like her other works, but I would very much like to go back and read her older stuff before carrying on with the newer stuff that I bought. So I thought by putting this on this list, holding me accountable to that, even though it won't be reducing my physical TBR because I don't physically own it. But like, there are 2 copies of it in the house. I have no excuse to not read it. Then we have got Mortal Follies by Alexis Hall. This one I have recently heard quite a lot of mixed things about, which is putting me off reading it, and that is part of the reason why I put it on this list, because I've liked other Alexis Hall stuff that I've read. I've read the Winner Bakes It All series, which is Rosalind Palmer Takes Cake and Paris Style and Court is About to Crumble. I've read the Boyfriend Material series, so Boyfriend Material, Husband Material. I have another one, I have Something Fabulous, and I have Mortal Follies, which I was really excited for. I bought the Pretty Illumicrate Afterlight edition, and I planned on reading it the back end of last year and then just did not pick it up. And like I said, I've seen it mixed things about it this year. What I've seen is that it's a sapphic love story. It's a sapphic sort of historical fantasy love story, I think, but I've seen someone said that it's narrated from a man, and like even the like sort of sex scenes are narrated by a man, and that sounds weird. I like need to look into this more, because I'm like, is it narrated by a named character, or is like that the audiobook? I'm really confused. But I know that like seeing the negativity may put me off reading it, so I don't want that to happen. I would like myself to actually read it so I can see whether or not I want to keep it on my shelves, because it is a really, really pretty edition as well. And like I said, I have liked other stuff that I've read by the author, so we will see. But I thought I'd put it on here to hold me accountable. Then I have got The Dark Vault books by V. Schwab. So these are the only V. Schwab books other than the Everyday Angel books that I haven't read. And I have got the bind up of, it's the Archived and the Unbound, and I have the bind up of both. And I mean, I would like to have at least read the Archived. I'd like to start the series. Ideally, I would like to read them both. I should have read them when Schwab Along read them the other year, but I just didn't. I think I wasn't in the mood to read them that month. So I feel like now everyone else has read them and I haven't, and I'm just like, oh, it's the only Schwab books I haven't read. I need to catch up with them. Like, Schwab is one of my favourite authors, so I just really need to catch up with these. Then we've got One True Love by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I have read Ola Taylor-Jenkins Reid newer releases. So sort of Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo onwards. So Seven Husbands, Daisy Jones, Malibu Rising and Carrie Soto. I read all of those ones. I then was in the works and I bought One True Loves because it was one of her older ones and it was cheap, and I was like, okay, I'll buy this. I kind of bought it so my mum could read it actually because she really likes her writing, and then I just haven't picked it up, and it's sort of irritating me that I have this one Taylor Jenkins Reid book on my shelf because I don't know if I want to read her older stuff, but this was the one of her older ones that intrigued me most. So I just need to hurry up and read it, and then I can decide if I do want to go through her backlist or if I'm just going to stick with her more recent stuff, because she definitely seems to have had like a change in the type of books that she's writing, and I just need to figure out if I like her older stuff. So I'm going to put it on this list. Then I've got Alone With You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. So the reason why this one is on my list is that I read The Atlas Six by Olivia Blake and very much enjoyed it, gave it 5 stars, really, really good. It was in my favourite books of 2022. In my most disappointing books of 2022 was The Atlas Paradox, which is a sequel to that one. And I'm really hoping it was just like a middle book syndrome, that it was just like, it felt like the pacing went off for the series, and it was one of those where it was sort of like all the stuff that we'd sort of set up for in book one we then kind of ignored for a while, and then suddenly things happened towards the end. And I'm really hoping that it was just an issue with the middle book, and I'm really hoping that like that series gets back on track for the Atlas Complex, because like I love that first book so much. I want the third book to sort of justify it and just like let me forget how disappointed I was in that second one. I then, because I knew I liked her writing style, I bought Alone With You in the Ether, which was her first, which was like the book that came out after those ones had, like, she's had quite a lot of books come out recently. She's too many, some people would say. There's been a lot of books come out from Olivia Blake in the last few years. I think what it was is that a lot of them are ones that were like self-pubbed before, so because there is like a wealth of them already there, they can just get them out quite quickly. So Alone With You in the Ether came out first. I bought a really pretty Waterstones edition, and then I told myself, right, you're not allowed to buy her other books, because she had 2 more that were like set to come out, and I was like, you're not allowed to buy the other ones until you've read that one to check and see whether you do actually like her writing, or like was the Atlas Six just a fluke. And then I didn't buy her next release, which was One for My Enemy, and like missed out on the Pretty Waterstones edition. And then when the Pretty Waterstones edition of Master of Death came out, I was like, I felt bad about missing the Waterstones edition of the last book. Maybe I should buy this one, because this one is the like concept of the 3 that sounds the most interesting to me. So I bought that one, and then in the half price sale after Christmas I've ended up buying One for My Enemy. So basically I've gone from saying I will only buy them like once I've confirmed I like Olivia Blake's writing, to buying 3 standalone books from her, having not liked the last book that I read from her. So I'm in a little bit of a conundrum here, where I may have a load of books from an author that I don't actually like. So basically what I'm doing is putting Alone With You in the Ether on here to hold me accountable to read that one at least, and then hopefully it will mean that I read the other 2 and will hopefully actually like her writing. I do have the Atlas Complex pre-ordered as well, so we'll see how that one goes. The last book I have in this section is A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I really like the other Becky Chambers books that I read. It was the Monk and Robot series, Sword for the Wild Book, Prayer for the Crown Shy. I really, really liked those ones. I have heard mixed things about this series, mixed things about sort of it as it goes on, and I've had the first one on my shelf for a while and just haven't read it, and I think that obviously I know I like her writing style, so I don't know why I haven't picked it up. So putting it on this list is hopefully gonna make me do that, as I've said with all the other ones. Okay, we are on to our last section, and that is the subscription box books that I would like to read. As I said before, these are going to be 3 that are pre-2023 and 3 that are from last year. I have so many subscription box books, although actually I had a shelf on my Goodreads that was like my subscription box backlist, and I definitely need to add some to that. But it was quite good because I went through and there were quite a few that I have read since then, or just on hold. I'm like, oh, I can like reduce it a little bit before I add more to it. So the 3 that are older ones, again, I'm not going to give you a synopsis at this point, because I tend to, the thing is I tend to go into books I haven't read not knowing too much about them, because I don't want to prejudge anything. So this is why I'm like avoiding synopsis for a lot of these. But the first one is The Devil Makes Three by Tori Barbolino. I just remember like the vibe of this one just being something that was like very intriguing to me, and other books that she's had come out since I've also been intrigued by, but I do very much like to read an author's work in publication order even if they're not connected. So not having read this one has made me not pick up her other stuff, and I would like to see if I like her writing style essentially. So that is one on there. We then have got You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by Akwaeke Emezi. And this is one that I think this was the first Afterlight book that I didn't actually read. Like I was doing really well with keeping up to date with the Afterlight books. And then this one came out and I think I heard some mixed things about it, but I think it was more that people like weren't expecting what it was. Because I did hear some really good things about it, but I don't think it necessarily fit with the Afterlight books in the way that like it wasn't necessarily the same vibe that some of the other Afterlight books had. So that kind of stopped me reading it a bit. But then I have heard good things about it. My housemate Abby, she really likes this author and she's read this book, and she said at one point that she has actually spoiled it for me, but I can't remember what she spoiled. And also I don't care about spoilers that much, so I do want to read it to see what I think of it. So I thought if I put this on here, and then hopefully it will help me catch up with the Afterlight one. So like once I didn't read this one and then fell behind with a lot of the others, so hopefully doing this will make me go, oh actually I'll read those other ones as well. We then have got The Wolf and the Woodsman by Ava Reid. So I, like I said, like to read people's books in publication order even if they're not connected, and I have multiple Ava Reid books that I would like to read. I really want to read A Study in Drowning. I would like to read June and Pearl and Thorn as well. I don't actually own that one, but it is in the house for me to read. So basically I need to get around to reading this one so I can start reading her other books, which feels like a weird way to have this. It's like, oh yeah, I'm reading this one because I'm less interested in it, but there's something else later I'm really interested in. Anyway, the next book that I have on here is, we're into the 2023 releases now. So the next one is The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshani Chokshi. And again, it's one that I don't know too much about. Well, I can't remember too much about it. I remember reading the synopsis and being really intrigued by it, and then for whatever reason, I think it's one that came and then we got to like the month where I didn't read anything at all. I planned to read it then and then just didn't read anything at all, so then it got forgotten about. But I know of other people who've read this and really enjoyed it, so I wanted to put it on this list to prioritize it. We then have got A Multiple Longings by Chloe Gong. So I have read all the other Chloe Gong books that I own. I have one that should be arriving with me soon. It's the Last Violent Call one, like the short stories that are in the world of the other books that she has, the These Violent Delights and the Foul Lady Fortune ones. So I just need to read those ones, and then this is sort of my next Chloe Gong book to read. And I feel like, again, it was the one that I heard sort of mixed things on. I've seen quite a lot of people put it on their least favourites of the year, but then I've also seen some people put it on their favourites of the year, and I'm so intrigued by it, and I just need to actually get around to reading it, especially as well because I didn't love the Fairy Loot edition of it, so I need to know whether or not I want to keep it, because if I do, I might get rid of that edition and then get a different one that I like more. So that's just an entirely different thing, but it's again something that will hopefully make sure that I actually do read it. And then the last book on this list, number 24, our last subscription box book, is one where actually I've read 2 other books by this author and not liked either of them, but I keep getting her books, mainly because subscription box keep giving them to me. Well, actually no, the first one was a subscription box, the second one was a gift, and then this one is a subscription box one. And the concepts keep sounding really good, and so far I've not like clicked with the execution, but I've also heard that the writing style for this one is slightly different, so maybe I'll like this one more. It's Starling House by Alex E. Harrow. I previously read The Once and Future Witches and 10,000 Doors of January, and sadly did not like either of them. Like, I didn't hate them, but I just like, there was something about the execution of it. Like I said, I really love the concepts of both of them, and then just didn't like how it all came together. And Starling House is another one that I'm really intrigued by the concept of, and I have a pretty Illumicrate edition, so I thought if I put it on this list and force myself to read it, because I'm worried that what'll happen is I'll put it on my shelves, and because I'm scared of not liking it again, I'll just put it off. Whereas if I can read it quickly and then decide once and for all, am I trying Alex E. Harrow books or am I completely giving up on her as an author, we can then go from there. So hopefully I'm actually going to read all of these this year. I am going to try and hold myself accountable throughout the year. I'm going to try and put, obviously there's 24 books over 12 months, so trying to read like 2 of them a month would be pretty good. Some months I might read more, because obviously if a lot, I think quite a few of the romances are all going to come out in like quick succession. They'll be quite easy to read. I know that I'm definitely reading Ruthless Vows this month, so I've already got one on there. Maybe I just need to pick another one. But yeah, I'm going to try and hold myself accountable. I may do like a check-in halfway through the year and see how I'm getting on with this list. And if I'm not doing well with it, you can all feel free to yell at me. But that is the 24 books and I'm going to try and prioritise throughout this year. And that is everything. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff down below. Let me know if there's anything that you're prioritising for this year, and I will see you guys soon with a new video. Bye.